On tonight's episode of Sanity Lounge, the boys welcome local rhythm devil Mitch Shaivitz into the lounge. Since 1985, Mitch has been melting local faces off in at least 11 bands while working in various studios and being a live sound engineer for local talent as well as major acts, including George Clinton and John Sebastian. Join us as we go through Mitch's rich history with drums, movies, and Baltimore in another fun episode of Sanity Lounge. Be sure to stick around after the interview featuring Mitch on the Skins, live in the lounge. Okay, welcome to Sanity Lounge.
Welcome.
Yes, we have a special guest tonight. A friend of mine, Mitch Shaivitz.
Wait a minute. It's Shaivitz, actually.
Mitch Shaivitz.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, well,
It's cool. Everybody gets it wrong.
So
Right.
here's I was saying, I feel like I know a Shaivitz, and maybe that's why I said
Maybe.
that. It's not
Shaivitz.
Shaivitz.
Yeah.
Mitch Shaivitz.
The I is silent.
Interesting. Okay,
Don't
well,
know why.
you see, we learn stuff at Sanity Lounge all the time.
We're meeting
Mitch
for the
Shaivitz.
first time. Yeah.
Yes,
So
and
it's wonderful to meet you. Yep.
Yep.
I am not a drummer, just for the record.
Right.
So you have more brain cells than we do.
Exactly.
Oh, right.
That is correct.
Woe's whole thing is artistry, sculpting,
Yeah.
painting, and stuff like that, which is why, he's a lunatic who pays attention to rhythms in a different way than drummers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
Sculpting.
But Mitch has been around for a long time, and I know Mitch because I'm in the 80s cover band Making Waves, and Mitch was in a band that used to share, like we would be on the same bill, they'd play shows, we'd play shows. So I've known Mitch for about 10 years now.
Have you ever filled in with Making Waves? Have you ever played with them?
Actually we have. We did one New Year's Eve. We had like a combo between both bands.
That was a great night.
That was fun.
That was a great
so
night.
much fun.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Did you
night.
guys, I mean, you shared a kit. You didn't do like a drum off.
No. We were going to do that. So I also, it's on there, but I also play percussion.
Yeah.
And that's a whole nother story. We can get to that.
We will get to that.
But I, was playing percussion. So instead of doing back and forth, we're like, I'll just bring my percussion out and I just fill in the
he's
holes.
got like the setup, kind of like Wheel,
Right,
he's
right,
got
yeah.
the nice, and he's good. Like you do gigs, we will get to it, but he does gigs as a percussionist as well as a drummer.
So for the people who don't know, what's the difference?
Good question. Usually, well, go ahead.
So the even though it's all percussion, right?
Right, technically.
So the drums are the drum kit, right? And percussion usually is the congas and the timbales and the shakers and the tambourines and all that goofy sound
Cowbell.
stuff. Cowbell, definitely cowbell.
Right.
And and you just fill it in. I
Right.
mean, you don't go nuts. You just kind of fill in that hole and just kind of add a little more icing to
It's
the
a
cake.
little sauce on top of the pasta. Like, remember Ciro from the Trey Band? Remember that guy Ciro? He's he's got all kinds of nutty stuff. So that's it.
I mean, as I said, I'm not a drummer, but I am a massive fan of drumming and music in general.
Yeah, and actually, it's a good question for the people
Especially
at
drums.
home who don't know, because I can hear people being like, what's the difference?
Are you a soloist? Like, I love a good drum solo, but some of the drummers we've talked to don't like doing drum solos. No.
I was in high school because I wanted to be cool. But
Right.
Right.
now, but
Usually it's like you're either, it seems anyway, in my experience, you're either a groover and a chaser of a real groove feel, or you're a chaser of the ultimate drum solo.
Right.
And so just depending on what your pedigree was, what you kind of grew up obsessing over, that's where you land with whether or not you're that guy.
We can start there. Let's delve into your origin story.
So
Was drums your first instrument?
it was just one day out of the blue. Don't even know why, but I just turned to mom and dad. I said, Dad, Mom, I want to play drums. I was in like 6th, 7th grade, around there. And they're like, why? I don't know. Something just hit me. No clue what hit me, but it just happened.
The call of the drum.
Yeah.
I'm serious.
Right. It could
But
be
go
something.
ahead.
Right. So, called up when I was going to public school, and the teacher said, well, he's not ready for band yet. Yeah, we get him some private lessons. So I took my private lessons with this awesome old school jazz teacher,
that's good.
super old school. And it's funny, I first went in there to take lessons with him, and he sits me down. He goes, "So who are your favorite drummers?" And at the time, I was like huge into Kiss. I'm like, "Peter Criss, he's awesome." And he looked at me, goes, "He sucks. He's a joke."
You said, "Oh."
I'm like, "What?"
He said, "Oh God."
Are you sure?
Right.
He said, "No. Kiss.
I
Peter
disagree.
Criss.
Right.
From
Yeah,
Kiss."
he goes, "No. He's a joke." And I'm like, "Holy I'm like, what the heck?" So for the first few months, he had the little practice pad drum kit. Well, I got over it. I was like, okay, maybe he knows what he's talking about,
Sure.
right? And I didn't know he had pictures of Louis Bellson and Buddy Rich and Gene Krupa up there, and I'm like, I had no clue who they were, really.
Right.
So he had stacks of Modern Drummer magazines. So when I wait for him, I'd always thumb through them. And then he gives me a book, and I'm like, cool, get to play on the drums. Nope, snare drum.
Good for him. Good for him.
Right.
Good teacher.
And he wrote on the first page of the book, he wrote two things. He wrote practice 8 days a week and 27 hours a day.
Nice.
So he was always telling you to keep going more.
Right.
And that's what I did.
Well, I got to tell you, it shows he's a really good rudimental drummer. Like you have real great controls of your rudiments. It shows. Yeah, it definitely shows that you're a lifer.
What style of drummer would you consider yourself?
I'm as a kid, I was in the Kiss and then Rush, and of course I had a big monster drum. You go through those phases, right? But even when I was taking lessons from him, the first thing I saw, he had a Modern Drummer magazine, and on the cover was Billy Cobham.
Oh
Right,
gosh, he's
so awesome, right?
And Mahavishnu Orchestra.
He's solo stuff, Mahavishnu. He's played with Miles Davis. I mean, he played with Dead and Company.
Yeah,
the great guys.
He's
the real deal.
Yeah,
and I met him a few years ago at a show he just did. Nicest guy ever.
Wow.
So I saw him on the cover, and it was his Tama 3 bass drum.
Yeah, he had a huge set
kit.
before Alex Van Halen. Before all, he had a serious drum set.
Kit. He had like 3 different kicks, different sizes. He had kick drums mounted behind him before we started getting to the lightning fast.
Right.
And he played open handed, which is when instead of crossing over, you're using your left hand to play the hi hat, not your right.
Okay.
So the theory is. Well, I read an article about him, but the theory is that why should I cross over if I could just play this way? I could get around faster, and he did it.
Right.
So
is that not a common thing?
Well, it is.
Some drummers could do it,
right?
And I'll get one of my all-time favorite drummers is Simon Phillips. Too.
Oh.
So these guys are open-handed players,
right?
And when I'm at gigs and I'm kind of bored and it's a slow song, I'll play open-handed, right? Just to practice.
Yeah.
I'm bored. I'm just going to go open-handed. I've done a few gigs where I knew I'm not going to say the band, but I knew it was going to be a boring gig.
Right.
So I purposely put my ride cymbal on my left side.
Good for you.
So I just the whole night had forced myself no matter what.
I've played gigs like that.
That was a clue, by the way.
I've played gigs like that. we don't get into politics.
If he puts his on the left.
Right, that means he's bored. Right.
So going back,
awesome.
so I saw this picture and I said to my drum instructor, I'm like, what's the deal with all the bass drums? And he jokingly said, oh, he can't count. Just as a joke, right?
Right.
And I'm thumbing through it again. I see, hey, he's got an album out. So I go to the library and I find Billy Cobham Warning. And I just wore the shit out of that record. I had to go out and buy it. Yeah, I mean, I used to play along to some of the songs. Wow. I mean, as hard as it was, and this guy was just freaking amazing.
He was amazing. After this, check out Billy Cobham or
check out Billy Cobham's Spectrum album. Yep. That's a class, even though it's a drummer's album, classic funk, fusion.
Yeah, I would say it's like prog fusion, funk.
Awesome. Is it instrumental?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
I'll definitely check
and it's
that
like
out.
the whole B-side's like 2 songs
Right.
and like the first side 6 and it's nasty
that doesn't
as
bother
shit,
me.
dude.
Yeah, and the guys, there's only 4 guys on the album. But
Cobham's an underrated. That's a great,
he's great,
inspiration.
So I was into rock and pop and all that because it was the 80s and listen to crap. But then I was like, holy shit.
And now what age are you still?
I was like 12, 13 when I started this, right? 14, I'm starting to, and then got the first kit and then begged my grandparents to let me borrow money. So I get big, giant double bass Tama kit,
nice.
which I did. And then, You grow
And
up
so,
get stupid.
were your parents always cool? Was the neighbors always cool? All that?
Yeah, I
wasn't
lived in a
problem?
house, so nobody cared.
That's clutch. Well, it's good that you have parents that allowed you to do it, because some parents.
Yeah, I have to
know.
listen to Lincoln now.
See, but you know.
I mean, I am
ultimately-
listening to him, but we still have to get it. I'm going to take Chris's. Oh, yeah, Chris, I'm definitely still getting that kit.
Yeah, right. He's going to get his son the electronic drum kit Chris has, because they live in a townhouse.
Right.
And so, but it's the perfect thing. Those electronic sets have come a long way. And if you have nothing, it will show you how it works.
And I want to play too.
Yeah, right. So continue. So after, this is your 12, 13 years old.
Right. And I met a guy that played guitar. I met him somewhere, and then I started doing some little gigs here and there. So, I'm not even old enough to drive, and my mom's schlepping my crap
Nice.
in her Oldsmobile, and I'm going around doing gigs here and there.
Good for
So-
you. That's great.
So, I just kept going and going and going.
So were you in high school at this point?
Middle school.
Middle school.
Middle
So
school.
were you the coolest kid in school?
No, I was like kept to myself. But my friends would come over. Then I'm like 16, 17, 18. My friends would come over and pretty much drag me off my kit.
Sure.
Or bring other friends over and say, "Hey, Mitch, play some Genesis or play some Rush."
Genesis.
Yeah.
That's
great.
kind of how we were with you.
Right, that is exactly
in
how it
Lepo's
was.
basement, we'd be like, Brian.
All of a sudden, I'm
Sit
liquored
down.
up. They're like,
Right.
Lepo can drum. I'm like,
Yeah. And then I would do like all the stuff in school. I'd do the marching band and the concert band. And then I would do the best. I'd do like the stage band where the productions, like for the musical stuff.
Is that right?
Yeah. And then everybody would come up to me and say, "All right, play the fill from In the Air Tonight."
Nice.
Every time.
Oh,
yeah, it was probably huge at the moment.
Yeah, it was just
yeah,
a
it
few
was
years
just,
like 4 years into it.
It was
yeah.
odd thing. Let me ask you this. So in marching band and stuff, I never had, I should have, I wish I would have, all that stuff. But they don't talk, like you're just learning rudiments, or they don't teach like theory or anything when you take
No,
marching.
it's really rudiments.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that's what I always thought, because I always wondered if they go into the history of rudiments when you take marching band, because there's a lot to that, and I think it's interesting, but I don't know if that's necessarily the place. If you're trying to just be a band, that's not where you learn history.
I feel
so-
like some marching bands are insane, like absolutely insane.
Yeah, I mean, I wish it was like that.
Yeah, I mean,
I've
maybe
seen
in college or no.
yeah, maybe college. It's
Yeah.
absolute.
Competition marching
yeah.
bands, like I mean that's coordination, what's the
Yeah, I mean, you
choreography,
right.
like that's like because there's dancing, drum, all of it.
and it's all rhythmic.
nuts,
It's all has to do with, it's okay. I was just wondering that.
Yeah, it was just basic high school marching band. You do a few parades here and there, a football game. It was just marching down. Just
I
remember
gotcha.
where to land on the one kind of
So
thing.
were you vibing at this point that you were going to drum for your life, or were you just kind of like, this is all right?
No, I was into it. I really wanted to make a move at it,
Good.
But of course, my dad was like, "Oh no,
You better have a backup.
I backup plan," and I did.
That's smart.
I got out of high school, and then I went to like University of Hartford, auditioned there, Towson
For drums?
music. Yeah, for music.
Okay,
yeah, I
good.
did I went to Berkeley, all that stuff, Berkeley College of Music. Everybody's like, "Okay, yeah, you're in," and then Dad's like, "Nope, go get at least a 2-year degree, and then." Then you could add it if you want to.
Right.
So I did that. I went away to school for 2 years, came back, went back to Towson, did it for a little bit, and I was like, this is, I could just play in a band and
Right.
learn my chops. And
Right. Well, good for you.
So when did you join your first band?
well, not your first band.
Yeah, which for
Right.
I mean, I was always playing in a band since I was playing drums. But the real band where we started hitting the local scene was probably in '89, and that was No Presents for Christmas. So it back then it actually was pretty known, especially at Loyola College, because
So was that a cover band or original?
it was original. It was both. So we did half and half. Did originals and covers. Because back then, a lot of people were doing originals.
Right.
So we were doing the same. We did 2 albums, recorded all that.
And what style was that band?
Like it was like REM, The Cure, U2.
Wow. Nice. 89, man.
89, yeah.
Yeah, that's
right,
cool.
right.
Cool.
And was that, so that just kind of, you did that for the time.
When college, yeah.
Right. And then did you, after college, did you just get a regular job
Yeah,
and drum
and
on
just
the side?
exactly.
Well, how come you owned or you had a studio?
So I had that too. So I was doing everything, right?
That's what I mean. It's
yeah,
I always hear these stories of Mitch owning a studio, and I'm going, my Mitch,
Right.
my drummer friend Mitch. You have this very interesting history of all this stuff. So how does that come into play?
So when I was in the
Mitchville?
studio recording the first album, I'm just sitting behind looking at all this cool gear. I'm like, holy crap, this is cool. And then
the first album for
No Presents for Christmas,
No
right?
Presents.
And I'm thinking, this is really cool. And I should actually, there was another project I was in with one of the guys in that band when I was in high school, recording at his place. So I didn't even put that in there. But there was another thing I was doing. So I was already used to going to the studio.
Right, you had already had
Yeah.
exposure to it. You understood that it was something interesting.
What was the studio?
Secret Sound.
Secret Sound.
Which is John Grant. He's on the other side of town. John's been around forever, too.
Yeah, I don't know if I know.
Yeah. John's been,
Where was it?
in Rosedale.
Okay.
Middle River. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and then because of that, we're now in the 80s and, electronic drums and all this. Simmons pads are really, and I'm totally addicted to it.
Right, and you're probably a little ahead of the curve because you've been around it a little bit for a minute.
And I just started getting really into electronic drums. And I mean, now we have everything in a compact pad and we have awesome processors that can handle it. But back then, I literally had my Simmons kit, I had a pad, and I had this rack, like as tall as a refrigerator, filled with samplers and triggers and modules. I mean, we used to joke about it. We used to call it the Beast because it took 3 people to lift up the rack case. It was filled with just all
and
these
to be
samplers.
clear, he's talking about now is this one of these
Yeah.
things the
now
size of a phone that's sitting right
Right.
beside you.
That's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not crazy, but
Right.
Yeah,
But
but I was into sampling. I mean, I'm like one of the few drummers around here that's triggering loops and hitting samples. So we would do certain songs that had like that sample. We used to do a Cult of Personality by Living Colour. So I would trigger those little speech parts and everything.
Right.
So it's and then we got into sequencing. So I'm the dumb drummer with the sampler had a sequencing package.
Wow, you were ahead of the game.
I was
baby.
crazy.
Like-
Well, I was nuts. So we'd do 9 Inch Nails had like a hole, and we do some EMF, stuff like at the time.
Sure.
So I'm the dumb drummer with a keyboard next to me and a computer monitor. So I could trigger the.
That's awesome, man.
Everybody's like looking at me like, what's he doing?
And back then, no drummers were doing that.
No.
Or very rarely.
Very rarely. They had a
Yeah.
drum pad and they would trigger like one module. But
Right.
I was just totally into what you could do with it.
Right. You were a mad scientist.
I was,
Yeah,
absolutely.
awesome.
So did the No Presents for Christmas thing end amicably?
Yeah,
or
it
was
just kind of
it is what it is.
It is
right?
what it is. It's like a lot of these projects. They just it ends,
Right.
And then I get involved in another project and another project, and I just keep going and going and going.
Yeah. So Bill Dixon and the MTT. What is that all?
So that was after No Presents. I was kind of looking for something to do, and I
Right.
found an ad, and I reached out to this guy Bill, and then we talked, and he said, "Hey, it's all original music. Here's the stuff," and then we did a few showcases here and there.
Had he seen your like? Did he know the band No Presents?
No,
for
he
Christmas?
kind of knew of me, but he didn't know. And then I did, after just meeting and talking to him, we did this thing, and then we went to New York a few times to do showcases.
Wow.
I mean, we did an album again back at Secret Sound.
You got an album called Unplugged.
Yeah, he did because that was during the time
Yep.
of the
Yeah,
whole.
that's the big run.
MTV Unplugged.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
around
like
that time, right.
96.
Yeah,
It's
right.
like 94 to 98.
Right,
you know.
right, and that's where the whole percussion thing started. So,
Oh, wow,
yeah,
nice.
so we were back then. Everybody's doing these, these acoustic things, and Bill was doing it, and this other guy in the band, Jeff Colson, was in the band. So we were doing a lot of 2 guitars, and I'd go out and get some percussion.
Right,
So
you just started
Right, I just
adding-
started adding. I did played some congas and added some tambourine, and just started learning how to do it.
Right.
Right. And I got to tell you, it's the best thing ever because I would teach myself to have better control of my left hand because I'm playing tambourine with my left hand and playing congas with my right. So I built up my left hand. And as a drummer, we all know our right hands are pretty much
You're
stronger.
so smart to do that. It's so obnoxious when people, because I never messed with tambourines. I rarely messed with like a lot of stuff. So a lot of times, I mean, now it's no big deal, but like when you first start drumming and somebody's like, well, you drum, here's a tambourine. I'm like, I hate this damn thing.
So,
like,
but can you play the congos?
yes.
Like, is that a given? Like, if you can drum, you can do
No,
both?
no.
It's a little different.
It's a different technique. You have to, I mean, you could probably make it rhythmic.
I feel like it would almost be closer to like slapping a bass guitar.
Kind of, because you have to know how to mute and hit a slap. And,
Right.
you know.
Right. Like if you are a drummer, you understand rhythm, so you could make it work better than somebody who can't.
Right.
But I would say that you have to work at being a good percussionist. Like there's every drum is different.
Right.
Every drum, like you said, has mute points. You slap, you get a different, flexion off of the top than when you swipe towards you, So there is an art for it. And I never spent a lot of time on actual percussion. Now I do more than ever.
Only in Florida.
Well, right, in Florida for that 1
all
year,
you had, yeah.
Right, and it was like, but that was only 1 year, right?
That you had it,
That
maybe a little more.
Yeah, but yeah, so I don't know, but it's not about me. It's about Mitch Shaivitz. So how did you
Shaivitz?
Well, my whole life I've known him for 10 years.
Mitch
I think
Shaivitz
I
and
always say,
not
I'm
the.
so used to
I
it.
know. Look, I'm the guy.
The Shaivitz.
In about 5 more years, Mitch, I will start saying it correctly. I don't know why I'm such a dunce with this kind of stuff, but that's how I roll. Okay.
So the whole percussion thing, I started doing more and more of that. And then I was at a gig with Bill and this guy, Richard Walton, who I knew played jazz. And he said to me, hey, I hear you're playing some percussion with Bill. I'm doing another album. Would you like to play percussion on it?
That's exciting.
And I said, sure, why not? I've never done that before. I mean, I played some percussion on Bill's album and a little on No Presents and not like full on.
Right. It's not as a gig.
Right.
Like
right.
That's...
So he said, hey, we can even, and at the time I started building my studio. I was using, I had 8-ats and the old stuff and I was starting to have, so he came over and, he gives me the song and we listen to it and I'm playing around with it and I go, cool, I got an idea. Verse, I'm going to do the congas here. I'm going to play timbales and cowbell here. And then during the bridge, there's a shaker. And he goes, and I started doing a rehearsal with the whole thing in one take.
Nice.
And he goes, well, let's just do like sections. I'm like, no. Give me a chance. Let me just do one straight take. It'll be fun. And I'm doing everything. I'm playing congas. I'm playing rain stick. I'm playing
right. You're
doing it all in one take. And I was like, oh, this is cool. And then he gave me another song to play on and so on. And then when he did his release, he said, hey, we just join the band. Now you're part of the band. They already had a drummer. This guy, Eric, awesome drummer. And I mean, I've been playing with him.
Yeah, that was back in 97.
97.
Yeah.
So I'm still playing with him today. And just recently, our drummer, Eric, just getting a little tired of it. So I've moved now to the drum chair.
Yeah, I saw that. That's
Right.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
I thought it was awesome.
Yeah, and Eric's a phenomenal drummer. And, the band misses him, but he just is getting a little tired.
Yeah,
of
man.
it.
If you get burned out, a lot of the drummer interviews we do, one of the main themes is if you're not in it, just stop. Like you got to have the passion and fire.
Well,
and
that's how Justin said. He can see it in drummers' eyes when they're like kind of checked out.
Absolutely. And if you're checked out, it's not helping anybody. And it's good to just,
Right. And every once in a while, Eric couldn't make a gig in the years, and I would fill in the drum seat here and there, just here and there. But now I've taken over the seat. Unfortunately, there's no percussionist. Right. So what I've done is I've kind of set up a little percussion thing on my left. So I have like those little congas without the bottom, those Giovanni congas.
Right. What are they called?
I forget what they're called. Yeah. I have a little timbale. I got triangle. I got a bell tree, a wood block, all that. So I can kind of fill it in. Right. So,
well, it was great, just not to go back too much, but the New Year's Eve gig, it was like a hybrid gig between Making Waves and Uncommitted.
And Uncommitted, yeah.
And so it was like, and it was the first time.
How long ago was that?
It was New Year's Eve of 2021, 22.
Oh, so recently.
Yeah, it was recent.
Was it after COVID?
It was right
or was it right before?
Right in the middle of it, because I remember some people were wearing masks.
That would be 21.
Okay.
It was
And
21.
where was it? Where was the New Year's show?
At
Yeah, what was our place?
Main Stage.
Main Stage Grill. Larry Gorin.
Larry
Shout out Larry Gorin. Larry and Terry. Good people.
Yeah, Larry was
nice.
so into the local music scene.
Yeah, Larry does a lot for the veterans.
Yeah.
We played a show at Goucher College
that
with
was him.
Technicolor
Okay,
Motorhome,
okay, yeah.
and that's Larry. Larry's all heart, and he puts his money where his mouth is, and he's a good
Yeah,
dude.
he's a good guy.
Yeah, that's
He's a
awesome.
real good guy.
And that was a fun gig because I remember
It was,
because
man.
Steve's looking at me, the bass player. Steve's looking at me when I'm playing certain songs, and he knows there's percussion there, and now I'm playing it. He's looking at me with that big grin on his face.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, anytime that Steve calls me and wants me to do that again, I'm there.
Yeah, well, I would love to do that. We
Oh,
will
yeah.
do that.
Why
And
don't
look,
you have a special Making Waves
listen,
guest?
he will. The
I
minute
will.
Steve sees this,
Do
he's
it.
like,
Steve,
Mitch,
do it now.
absolutely.
Do it.
Yeah, he
He's
will.
right. He's right. I
Do
didn't
it.
think Mitch would do that.
Yeah,
Do it.
he 100% will do that
Oh,
because it was
I'm
a
in.
great night. Dude.
I'm in. It
Oh,
was
yeah,
so fun.
we're calling him out
Because
now.
we locked in. Like, it was just like sometimes you get, if you play with other people, it works. And then sometimes it's like Jedi work. Like, you're just locked. That you can't miss. You're
No, I love
breathing
it.
together.
So, with Sweet
And
Lita.
that was Mitch.
So
Yeah.
Sweet
And
Lita,
Ricky, right.
So Sweet Lita has Tristan and Word. Word does percussions with Tristan's drums, and it just adds a whole new dynamic to
Yeah.
Sweet Lita. It's amazing.
It's full. And if you know how to utilize it, which goes back to, you do need to work at it because it's taste.
Yeah.
It's like,
right. And the trick is not to overplay. Like the percussionist is kind of filling in that,
right.
filling in between the drum kits. So
Right.
you got to know, not overdo it, not play on top. You just want to fill in those little
Right.
holes.
And the reason it works so well is because I'm not a flashy drummer. I keep a groove, and it's like, so it was just perfect. Like, we
Right.
just synced up.
When are you
and it
playing
was
McAvoy's?
wonderful.
That's coming up. Right?
June 8th. But that is not a Making
what are you
Waves
doing
show.
June 8th?
That's not a Making Waves show.
That's not a Making
Oh,
Waves
it's
show.
a smoking
That's
section
a
show.
smoking
Oh, yeah, we'll
section
be
show.
there. We'll be
And
there.
this won't be out till after June 8th.
Right. Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Are you coming?
June 8th?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's
All right,
McAvoy's. It's
good.
in my neck
All
of the
right,
woods, and I need to
never
see
got-
smoking section.
It was just a quick, we had just gotten this gig.
I
and
don't-
just
I-
invited him. I didn't know. Okay. Sorry.
I'll talk about it if I was there, not on the next episode.
So Richard is a very nice guy, and he's a very good player.
Yeah.
And he's a great songwriter.
Right. He's gotten tons of awards for his songwriting over the years. And then Richard always uses me when he does his solo stuff. He has me play drums and percussion on it. And what he does is I'll play some stuff for him that he may or may not use, and he'll put it aside. And then he'll put out a new album. Like, he just put out another new album. And he goes, "Hey, by the way, you played on this song."
That's so
And I
funny.
said, "Really? I don't remember playing on that." And he goes, No. I just took some of your drum stuff and reprogrammed it because I like the way your drums sound and your groove and everything. So I just kind of rearranged it.
Nice.
And-
All of a sudden,
Yeah,
you're on
yeah.
an album.
Right.
awesome.
And then with today's technology, so I still have my studio. I've kind of slimmed it down, just all computer based, as most studios are. And he just sends me files, and I just sit there and play drums and
Dude.
send it back. It's that easy.
So, Mitch, through your life of drum, has your job been drums and studio work, or are you like a teacher during the day?
No.
And,
So in '98, I ended up worked for Guitar Center. So I
Okay.
was there when it first opened up in Towson. And then I honestly, when I got there, I said, I want to be in the drum department. The manager said, "Nope, we got too many drummers. I need somebody in audio. And I see you've done some studio stuff." I said, "Well, I don't think I'm that good." He goes, No, you'll be fine. So I kind of got thrown into it. And a year or two later, I got bumped up to what they call GC Pro, which is the professional division. So now I'm in outside sales. And I was doing it for like 18 years or so.
I got you. So that's cool.
All right, and I built up a big clientele, and then because of that, I started making more relationships. I've done some interesting things.
Yeah, right.
Over the
well, that's what I'm saying. Like, so Archaic Smile. I was told Chris mentioned that group. What was that group?
So that was the leftovers from Bill Dixon. So as things kind of go, there was this weird. Bill got some kind of weird offer to do this record deal, and it was kind of like you had to pay the money to, and we're like, and
It
me and
that doesn't sound
it doesn't
right.
sound right. So I remember we were sitting in my old studio, and Bill's there, and Jeff Colson and this guy Bob Gray. We were the MTT in the band, and we're sitting there. We get the guy on the phone. Well, first off, the guy sends a demo of all the stuff he's done and all these, he's got connections. I could put you in Best Buy because he was in Minneapolis.
Okay.
So, and it's for Best Buy he's based out of. So he had some kind of weird connection. So, sorry. So he, so we're all sitting there, and he sends a demo tape, and it's like a country song, a rock song, a reggae song. And we're all sitting there, and I'm listening to it, and I'm thinking that the reggae song, the mix sounds like the rock song and the country song. If you know reggae, you accent on the 3.
Right.
Country, there's a little different of a feel. And so we get the guy on the phone, and at this point, Bill got a little greedy. He's like, well, I want everybody to kick in 25%, and you guys all get paid back based upon if you wrote the song, if you played on the song, like all these weird things.
Right.
And the 3 of us are all looking at each other going, well, this is stupid.
Right.
This is just dumb. And the guy's on the phone, and he's talking to us, and I said, well, listen, I'm not being, mean or anything or cruel, or I'm just saying, why can't we just record this stuff locally? Why do we have to go out to your studio in Minneapolis? And he got pissed. I don't know what his motive was. It was just really weird. So the 3 of us decided we're done. We formed Archaic Smile, and that hands down was probably my favorite band I've ever been in. We did 2 albums, all original material. Wheel was working with me at my studio, and he was heavily involved with the production and even mixing us live. The band we were close. We were playing at Pier 6, opening up. We were playing at the Taste of Baltimore at Camden Yards. We opened up for Hootie and the Blowfish.
Nice.
Opened up for Duncan Sheik. Wow. We were getting, we had a good connection with Mix 106. The guy loved us. So we were,
Is that music still around?
No, we did our first album. Wheel did a lot of the mixing, most all of it. And then we did the second one. I was getting a little fried. So we had Steve Wright at Right Way Studios did he mixed it after we recorded everything on our own.
Wow.
But that album is,
well, that's what Chris was acting like.
Yeah, that album is great. It's music. Bob and Jeff could just write. They're totally into Crowded House.
Oh,
so
nice.
they have that sensibility on how they write together. It's so good.
And what the guy from Crowded House was in another band.
Split Ends.
That's the Steven special.
Yeah.
Steven, the bass player.
Finn.
And
Finn.
Yeah, right. Something like that. Like it's like Steven loves that. I think Split Ends.
Yeah.
I think we covered a Split Ends song in
might
Making
have.
Waves. Yeah. But that's wild, man. Archaic Smile. Well, now I want to hear some of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll get you a disc. He probably has one. Ask
Yeah,
Wheel.
now actually Wheel.
He probably has
Will
it.
you have one?
Right. Full disclosure, the producer of the show is the Wheel Chris we are talking about.
It might be hanging in
Yeah, he's getting ready to blast it in our ear.
Nice.
Yeah, that's what he's doing. Yeah, so 5 old guys.
Yeah, I was going to ask.
Were you
that.
old?
I was in my 40s, so I guess.
Okay.
That was just like it was all the yacht rock kind of stuff. A lot of.
That's fun playing.
Yeah, it was again, but it got a little. I got bored. So.
Was it bored because you had to play like the part, or were the gigs good?
The gigs were okay, and the vocals were top notch.
Yeah.
We would do Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, and they would just nail it.
Right.
Like perfectly nailed. Great vocals. And it, for the most part, everybody got along. And
right.
But again, time goes.
Yeah,
on.
if you go, it's that's 5 years.
Yeah, it was a long time.
That's a nice run. Yeah. So if you do that for a minute, that's how it goes.
It was fun.
And then Richard Walton comes back into your life, or he never really left.
He just decided I'm going to do my solo stuff, and the jazz stuff's going to be separate. So
now, does he play all the way up and down the East Coast, or is it just Virginia?
Virginia, Delaware, Mid-Atlantic.
He's always playing.
He's always playing every day. He's probably playing right now somewhere.
Yeah, the last time I saw him was at Gus Fest. God love him.
Yeah.
Gus.
Oh God.
Gus Daner passed away.
Yeah,
that was recent, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a year or two, maybe.
Yeah. And it's funny because we just played the gig with the Richard Walton group where the last time I saw Gus.
It's amazing. This guy, Gus, this is the kind of guy he is. He always came to Making Waves shows. He was an interesting body type, okay? in the most respectful sense. Anybody who knows him will know what I'm talking about. And he was the most unassuming guy in the world. But if you started playing funk, this son of a bitch, it was like James Brown. Like he'd cut across the floor, popcorn feet. His body moved ways that, and you're like, holy shit, Gus, like you're fucking getting it. So anyway, he goes to see Richard Walton show one night. You tell this story because do you know what I'm talking about?
Well, there was one time, so after Five Old Guys kind of ended, some of the guys in the band, including Richard, we just kept on going for about another year. And recently, back to main stage, what's his name asked Richard, hey, can you put a band together instead of doing a solo thing? So Richard called us all up.
Larry,
Larry asked Richard. And so Richard goes, hey, can you guys do this? And we literally just like, okay, no problem. And no rehearsal. We just showed up and played, and it was a bunch of 70s, 80s, same stuff we did. It just like, I guess it's osmosis.
It's
just
like an old Richard Walton show.
Right. It just stuck in your head. So we just did it. And Gus comes up to me, goes, man, you guys are great. Did you guys practice? How long did it take you to practice? I said, we didn't practice.
Had you met Gus?
Oh, yeah. When I was in the Uncommitted, I would always.
That's right. That's right. At the time you were in the Uncommitted.
Yeah.
I forgot.
So Gus is like, are you serious? You didn't practice? No, we just, He's like, wow, it sounds like you guys have been practicing for a while.
Right. Well, that night or the next night, he went home and formed the Richard Walton fan club on Facebook. Yeah. And all of a sudden, he starts like, pushing Richard Walton's music basically, like just, out of nowhere, and that was the kind of guy he was the curator of the Richard Walton fan club from then on out.
Yeah. And then he would come and see Richard play solo all the time. Yep. And then Richard, I guess, told him, hey, I have a jazz group too. And then Gus would show up at that too. So he'd see Richard solo, me with him playing rock and roll, and then the jazz band.
Amazing guy. And he passed away. And that was the last time Richard played that show with us. He came and played two of his originals, and I drummed with him. And he was a real sweet guy. Good man.
Yeah,
that's good stuff.
We skipped over. I think we skipped over the Mark Wood project.
So again, that was after No Presence. Was one of the guys in the band. Mark was the keyboard player, but also a great guitar player and songwriter. And that's another project where all original music, no covers whatsoever. And it was some really talented guys and people that played on that album. We had Scott and Jen Smith. They have like a little thing together too, and they're known, but they were on the album. And Rob Belanger.
I know that name.
Rob was in a band called Burst of Silence. And unfortunately, Rob passed away a few years ago. And his dad was Mark Belanger, the Oriole baseball player.
Oh, wow. Maybe that's why.
Yeah, maybe. Okay. And Mark and Rob, just great songwriters together. And again, it was another project where it was different drummers and different everything. And I did percussion. And then when that band went out and played, I was moved to percussion, and it was either Mark St. Pierre or Greg Tamakis playing drums. So it was always fun to play with these guys.
Oh man, Mark St. Pierre.
Yeah, Mark St. and John. It was just so much fun. And then again, we would do these showcase shows. We would play at Fletcher's. We'd open up for, I remember there used to be this thing called Freakness Festival down in Fells Point. And we were sandwiched between like Too Much Joy, who else? Dishwalla.
I remember
Dishwalla. Us. It was us, and then Spin Doctors.
Wow.
It was a cool lineup.
Fletcher's?
No, it was outside. It was outside down in Fells Point in the square. They built a huge stage over the that square that's elevated.
Yeah.
Right. Wow.
That was crazy. That was so much fun.
Yeah, that's fun gigs.
Yeah.
That's good stuff.
Do you do any singing? Do you sing at all?
No. I'm a terrible singer.
No?
No. Every once in a while,
I thought I seen you do backup.
I do backup. I do backup here and there. In the new band I'm in, I'm forced to do backup.
Yeah,
but I'm not a great singer. I'll be honest.
Well, you always made it work. I never knew you weren't a singer.
No,
I'm not.
For the record, Woe Davis is.
You don't want me singing.
Brian does some good vocals.
No,
Brian does a great vocal.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, the one time I showed up to one gig, he got up behind the kit, sang Billy Idol song, and then I got on the kit.
Yeah. Actually, there was a couple times like you did audio. He did audio at my family reunion.
Okay.
My Making Waves played, and so we're in my like Paige and I, Donna, everybody, and the sound guy pulls up and it's Mitch, and I'm like, holy shit!
And you didn't know that was
no,
happening.
I didn't know. Steven
didn't
knew.
tell you.
Oh, nice. That's awesome.
But we go way back. It's good stuff. So, what is eye level?
So eye level was the leftovers from Fog. So it only lasted a year.
Okay,
but it's the same guys, just -1.
I got you. And then the Uncommitted cats, John Kelly.
All
we
them.
love love Elizabeth DC. The Uncommitted
I know.
is a band, right?
I've
they do
met
like
covers.
Making Waves.
Yeah. And so when Making Waves started, it was like Making Waves and the Uncommitted kind of started. They were before us, but it's the same vibe. Like, they did 80s,
90s, same fan base too.
Yeah, right. And so we kind of
Elizabeth
started.
she sings whenever she's around at your shows. She cuts up on stage. With
Elizabeth
you, right?
DC does. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, we'll invite her up and she'll do, what is the song? She usually does Four Non-Blondes or Pat Benatar. Incredibly powerful voice.
Yeah.
Yeah, great bunch of performers. Love those guys, John Kelly and the Uncommitted, and they're still going strong.
Yeah, they're still going strong. And that was where again, I was kind of tired.
Well, no, that I didn't want to bring it up, but that was one of those like everybody's cool as far as I know, but it was just a weird thing. All of a sudden,
Mitch is out.
They call me and they're like, "Can you drum?" And John Kelly's like, "Mitch, where the hell's Mitch?" And I'm going, I don't know.
It was just one of those things where I was kind of, I was, it was 6 years, and I was getting again, you as a drummer, and I even read articles about professional drummers who leave these big gigs because they're just tired of it.
Right. And if you lose that fire, it doesn't, it shows.
Right.
It shows in the work.
Like a great example is Simon Phillips was asked to be the drummer for Toto when Jeff died. Mm-hmm. And back to me, I'm a huge Jeff Porcaro fan.
Oh my gosh.
My drumming is, and Richard will say this, I'm like the pocket drummer. I just play to the song. I stay in the pocket. I don't do any craziness, just groove to the song. And I get that from listening to Jeff and studio drummers like Tony Thompson and Hal Blaine. So that's where I get my inspiration from.
Your pedigree, right?
But Simon's a great example of, he was in Toto for a long time and he wrestled with it, but he just got tired of it. He was just like, hey, I want to move on. Now he's just doing back to his jazz thing, and he's happy.
Jeff, the Porcaros in general, like that touch, and he was on Steely. He did some Steely.
He did
work.
some
He
Steely,
was on Gaucho and stuff like that.
Yes,
he did. He was like the Rosanna Shuffle.
Mm-hmm.
If you remember Toto and the song Rosanna, he's doing a halftime shuffle that at the time Bernard Pretty Purdy had done it. A little variant, and John Bonham on
Fool in the Rain.
Fool in the Rain did a nice halftime shuffle, but this wasn't like Porcaro was doing.
He kind of like mixed it.
Right.
Yeah.
Jeff Porcaro did the Rosanna shuffle and blew everybody's fucking mind.
Right.
And so it's just a little variant of these other great halftime shuffles, and it's so cool and hip that it's got its own thing.
I can circle back to this now. What is a shuffle?
I'll do it if you want me to, but
it's just
it's a form of time. If you're playing a standard rock song, you're just playing a standard beat. It's 1, 2, 3. A shuffle adds a hop, and it's like the blues is usually a shuffle.
Right.
And 1 and 2.
right.
Got it.
1, 2, and 1. So where a regular song is 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, but if you're shuffling it, it's more of a, and so that usually means you're playing blues, jazz. It just gives a song a feel.
That's great. I've been meaning to clear that up for 4 episodes.
And we'll dig this. Well, so the Rosanna Shuffle, when you leave, actually Chris will throw it on tonight or so. Listen to what he's doing.
Yeah.
It's really
And the kick drum's doing like a Bo Diddley beat.
Oh my gosh! Right.
So you got like 2 different rhythms going
it's
on.
Syncopation
on
crazy. Top of a saucy shuffle.
I mean, I've heard the song 1,000 times, but I've never paid attention to what you're telling me about.
Well,
right now.
Porcaro, that's a true testament to the kind of drummer you are, and I do think you vibe like him because every time I you always have the nicest gear and you're always the tightest. Like you just seem tight. And like I said, you're rudimentarily sound. Like, you know, it's not that you can't, you just don't because it doesn't call for it. And that's a disciplined drummer. That's a long life, you know, that's a lifer in my opinion. Mm-hmm. But who the hell am I?
No, that's good.
Big Machine.
So when I was kind of a little bored, I decided to look around and I found these guys were looking for a drummer and joined them in 2022.
Oh, so they were already an
I was kind of in between. It just so happened it happened the same week.
Wow.
Where I did an audition with Big Machine and they were auditioning all kinds of drummers. And the thing about them was he had a vision. I want a show. I don't want any goofiness between songs. I want to go bam, bam, bam. You know, some of these songs, we don't have a keyboard player. It's 4 guys. There's going to be some backing keyboard parts to a click, and I need a drummer that could just lock into a click. So I said, okay, great. Turns out I get a phone call before my audition, and the bass player in that band is somebody I used to be with a long time ago. I used to play with in No Presents for Christmas.
Wow, nice.
So it's a small world.
Right.
Well, it's
Serendipity.
Small to is correct. Right. So he called me up. He said, hey, do you remember me? I'm like, holy crap, you know, it's Jason. So did my audition. They go, hey, you got the gig? And super tight rehearsals before he would even do a gig. And I mean, we're playing all the big rooms.
I could tell you were very excited.
So is this originals or covers?
It's all covers.
All covers.
But it's like super high energy.
It's
80s
serious
and 90s.
covers.
I mean, it's serious. Like we do like medleys of songs, and it's like when the song ends, you better be ready to go
Right.
for there is no getting a drink of water. There
Right.
isn't any. There's nothing. So you got to be. And the band's amazing. Those guys are great. It's cool because we have our own truck. We have our own PA. We have our own giant lighting system. Everybody's on in-ears. Everybody in the band's on no guitar amps on stage. Everybody's using processors and everything.
Good for you guys. Awesome.
Everything's backed up. So we have a backup for the backup. So the computer goes down. We got 2 other backups.
Yeah, it looks like a big machine. I mean, that's the thing is like, but that's good, man. That's discipline. Like the reason why Making Waves has any success is because Steven is a disciplined son of a bitch.
Right.
I mean, I love him, but he's very disciplined. And if you don't have that, you won't, you know, you'll only go so far. So,
Right. And we did our first Fagers gig, and after the first break, the entertainment manager comes up to us, he's like, where you guys been? He said, I'm texting the agent right now. I want you guys back here this summer.
Good for you.
And he gave us 3 other dates.
Yeah, man.
And
Fagers is hard to get into. Dude.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And here we are, April, playing 1 gig, and all of a sudden, here you guys go. Here's 3 more dates.
Good for you.
I was just going to ask, how many gigs do you play a month? Or
It's like 3 to 4, which is fine.
3
we
to
don't
4
want to
a month,
overdo.
and that's all around here. Local.
Yeah, well, now we're doing Harringtons. We're doing
Ocean City.
We're doing the Jetty.
Yeah.
We're doing Ocean City. We're doing all. You know, we did Red Eye Dock. We're doing all the bigger rooms.
Right.
I love it. You know, we come in with all this crap and all this gear.
Yeah, I mean, if you have a spectacle show,
it shows.
I know
it
shows. It does, man. I'm so proud of you. I'm happy for you.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, we got it's great. Like the lights are even synced up to the sequences.
I saw a little video.
Yeah, I mean,
I was like, holy shit, this is
cool.
dice.
Yeah,
like,
and that video, that is real live.
Right,
and
that's
everything
not
is
doctored or anything.
That is all synced up. And
now, to be clear, though, are you doing all of the stuff, or is that the big machine is already the big machine, and then Mitch shows up? No. It's none of Mitch sequencing or anything.
No. Well,
right?
There's some songs. Like what's really cool is we do Jane Says by Jane's Addiction, right? But
you got the steel drum.
That's what I do. So instead of me sitting behind there and just playing a rhythm, I hit a loop. I get up from behind the kit. I got another pad, and I'm playing all the steel drum parts. People are like, "That's awesome. Cool."
Yeah, great. That's a perfect.
People are like, "That went over." I was surprised how well that went over.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
They're into it.
Well, at Fagers, man, that's a great vibe. Yeah, at Fagers too. Yeah. And that's a great gig.
Have you played Fagers recently?
In April, and we're back there.
What do you think about the rising stage?
So that's a funny story. So we showed up there, and we have our own drum riser. and we try to use it because it just looks cooler.
Right.
So we're looking at it like, yeah, we could fit it in. So we put it up there, and we make sure nothing is that rises.
Was my man okay with it? The guy that's always there,
yeah,
with
yeah,
the beard.
Dude,
yeah.
you must have been fucking towering over everybody.
I was. In fact, I'm sitting there. There's like that ledge behind you.
Oh my God, I just shit my pants.
Yeah. And I'm sitting there playing, and there's still people looking over, and then he tells you, "Hey, I'm going to raise the stage during the first or second song," and I'm just going, "Okay."
During the song,
I didn't even know it was going up.
Awesome.
I didn't even realize it. It was that smooth.
Oh my God,
I didn't realize it. So it goes up, and I'm looking after the third, somewhere in the third song. I'm like, "Oh yeah, the stage is up," and then I realize. Oh yeah, hi there. Like people are like literally like sitting right next to me, and
that are standing up.
Yeah, no, they're sitting there.
Well, no, the faggers, they got this riser behind
behind you. Oh, people sit there.
Yeah,
I never
stools.
go up there, so it looks like they're standing
Yeah,
because they're
it's
always
like
leaning.
tall stools.
Okay.
Yeah, but I'm
High
sitting there
top
playing.
stools.
I'm like, this guy's like,
That's
he's like
funny.
really checking me out.
Yeah. I told him,
it's nerve-wracking.
Brian had his eyes closed the first time that happened.
dude, I got seasick. I totally spaced out. I forgot. And all of a sudden, I'm like, as I'm drumming, I'm like, I didn't understand what was happening. When I opened up my eyes, I'm like it freaked me out briefly, I
didn't even know it happened.
That's amazing,
awesome.
dude. I swear every time it scares the heck
It's
out
awesome.
of me. Briefly,
I'm glad I didn't realize it.
Well, look, I'm glad it went well for you. He texted me the night before.
And I said, I'm going to hide a drumstick.
Right.
And so I hid a drumstick somewhere. And what's funny is I was about to, and then people are coming up to me, go, "Hey, can I get a drumstick? Can I get guitar picks?" And I'm like, I'm handing out all my broken sticks.
It's
and
so funny.
I always go through sticks.
Right.
And I only broke one or two. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to tell Brian anyway I hit it.
Right. Well, look, it's so funny. I don't for whatever reason, I'm not a heavy hitter. So, but I don't break a lot of sticks, but I'm also, some say, on a tight budget, So I'm at these shows and sometimes kids are like, "Can I get a stick?" And I'm like, "Sure." And I give one out. And then another kid's like, "Can I get a stick?" I'm like, "Yeah."
"Sorry, bud."
Yeah. And all of a sudden I'm like, I have 4 sticks left and I'm like, I got to shut it
like,
down.
I gotta
baby.
go home.
Like, and then Steven's like, "You ought to just, find a bunch of cheap sticks and put them in your car. And when they
I can print you some.
Holy shit. Brilliant.
That's a good idea.
It is a great idea.
Yeah, I got some old.
It's incredible.
I'll
So,
print you some
Mitch,
But
some
yeah,
sticks.
and kids are coming. People are coming up to me. "Hey, can I get a stick?" I'm like, "Oh man, I just gave out my broken ones." And he goes, "How about a new one?" I'm like, "Oh, if they weren't so
You said
expensive,
they're $20.
they're like, if they weren't $8 a pair,
Right, it's ridiculous.
But but I will say with when it comes to my gear, I use ProMark and Evans, and I have a great connection with Diodario because of my association at Guitar Center. So I was able. I'm not there at Guitar Center anymore, but I was able to make friends with the national
network.
So they give me a bit of a discount.
That's awesome.
And even though I'm not there anymore, they take care of me, and they're so awesome. They make a great product, and the national sales manager, she's great. She's really friendly. And I'm over anybody that's been there, I've always made friends with, and we've always had discussions about what should we do next.
Well, that's awesome, man. I mean, those kinds of networks are what ends up being the most fruitful. As we found out, Chris Wheel, I mean, the mere fact that you knew Chris Wheel after I've known you for 10 years, I've known him for however many years.
I've known Wheel since like 96.
I mean, that's crazy. Dude.
97.
And that's funny enough. I knew him up until 95, 96, and then I didn't see him until...
He was hanging out with me.
He was with you, right? I mean, it's such a small world. Mitch, flock of eagles.
So that just happened recently.
I
too.
know. I just saw a flyer. I said, "Am I reading this right?"
Tribute band.
Eagles tribute. So
Incredible, Nick.
I know all of a sudden I'm getting asked to do all these things, and then this guy Greg Say, who I used to be with, and he plays with some of the guys from the band Cinema.
I know that.
Right. So yeah, they're like they've been around forever. Classic rock band. So some of those guys were doing like acoustic shows together, and they were doing a lot of Eagles songs. So one of the owners of a club they were playing at said, you should get an Eagles band together. You guys would sound so good. So Gray calls me up. He's like, "We're going to start an Eagles tribute band." And All of a sudden.
Now, are you singing harmonies?
No,
no. Okay, I didn't think so.
I could barely sing back up in Big Machine. So
I got you.
I'm like, nope.
So how many are in that band?
5 people in the band. Yeah. There were a few more, but we had to shift some things around.
Sure.
And it's this guy Anch from Alto Ego, the guitar player.
I know Alto Ego.
He is a great guitar player.
Yeah, they're nasty.
Yeah, so we needed a Joe Walsh, and he fit the bill. Harmonies are just amazing, and we started playing the fall of last year, and now all of a sudden everywhere we're going, I want you guys back.
Yeah, look, tribute.
Awesome.
If you're good, and
if you're
tight,
good, yes. If you're good,
there's a lot of money
not?
to be made out.
And I'm just going, hey guys, we don't have to just do Eagles. There's a lot of Joe Walsh songs we could do.
Absolutely.
Some James Gang. We're doing some Henley. We're doing Dirty Laundry.
Don't sleep on Glenn Frey solo, man.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, dude.
You belong to
Smuggler's Blues.
That's a long
Blues.
catalog. That's a vast.
Right.
You belong to the city.
Songs,
Yeah.
I mean,
Soul
Glenn
Searcher.
Frey solo reminds me of my
An
dad.
Eagles tribute band doesn't just have to be Eagles.
No, it
Yeah,
doesn't.
man.
There's Don Felder.
Yeah, man.
Rocky-
Don Felder, baby.
Yeah.
James Gang, like you said. Yeah.
So we're
that's
doing all that.
good
And
stuff.
at this point, we're pretty much a few songs away from having 3 sets of Eagles.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Man.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's good
And again,
stuff.
I'm using my drum pad. We're doing like Dirty Laundry. A lot of the...
Right.
Yeah. I'm triggering the loops. I'm triggering the drum machine.
Yeah, Henley is tasty.
Yeah,
like
he is.
he's
He is.
kind of an underrated drummer. Like everybody knows he's a great singer,
Yeah.
but he's an underrated drummer.
And it's funny because when I started doing this stuff and I'm starting to listen to Eagles songs, as a drummer, you're like, just the Eagles. You're thinking, right. But when you really start listening to the Eagles songs and you really start listening to the arrangements, you're like, holy shit.
Yeah, dude.
They are like Beatles arrangements.
They put a lot of thought.
They
in
put a
it.
lot, they're crazy. So I have to literally, I usually don't do this. And I'm at the point where I could forget them, but I make charts.
Good for
I
you.
rarely do it, but for this, because first verse, second chorus, next verse, the next chorus will have double.
Right.
Yeah,
he always throws in some weird little sauce.
Yeah, right. And you're doing the verse, but then half of it switches to a chorus.
Right.
It's and the drumming is not the same. I mean, like some of the songs, like Wasted Time is a great example where the drums are like first 2 lines is this, next line is that, and the third. It's you really,
and half the time after you're figuring out all these kinds of interesting that you didn't consider things, a lot of the times then you're like, holy shit, this fucker's singing too. Like, it's like good, and I gained an appreciation
I
for
have
Henley.
really, I mean, as much as
We
Henley
just
could be-
learned Life in the Fast Lane, and I know the song like the back of my hand, so we're like, oh yeah, I'll play it, no problem. And it is easy, but there's a lot of hits and there's a lot of stops and starts, and you think you know them, but do you?
Right.
Like-
I'll have to check out Flock
Yeah.
of Eagles on my own.
Yeah.
'Cause I don't
So
think a
it's
band.
on-
I
it's
don't
on
think a band will
Facebook.
come with.
She won't.
but it's funny. We came up with the whole, Flock of Seagulls, and we did.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
It's brilliant.
It's a
somebody
great-
else
I like
doing
it.
Yeah.
It's
I
a
like
selling
it.
point.
Yeah,
It's a good selling
Life in the Fast Lane is a great example of, like, he's doubling it here,
Right.
And then you go to this section. I have more appreciation for the Eagles. Than I
I'm
ever
telling
had.
you, I just did Life in the Fast Lane, and listen to it. Like when you put it on, just like you've heard it a million times, you can hear it in your head, but it's just a little saucy. Like it's a little bit harder than one would think to, and so it's cool that you're doing that. That's awesome.
Yeah, I have a new appreciation.
Yeah,
for it,
definitely, man. I love that kind of stuff. Well, let me ask you this: are you a film guy?
So it depends what I'm into at the time. It depends what's on HBO or whatever.
But I'm saying, like, would you consider, like, do films? What's your top 3 movies if you had a top 3?
Probably Godfather.
That's a good. There you go.
I put that
That's
in.
2 for God.
Worthy.
Yeah. I'd probably Pulp Fiction.
That's so funny.
Are you guys the same
This
person?
is 2, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Did you watch my episode?
no, I didn't.
Right. All right.
It's movies like I watch over and over again, and not
Yeah,
get it.
right.
My wife's always like, "Why are you watching the same? How can you watch the same movie over and over
It's
again?"
fantastic.
Right. And then I got to think of a comedy because I'm always the jokester in the band and always making jokes, and I could always recite lines. I don't know, maybe Caddyshack.
Oh, that's a good one. That's,
I love Caddyshack.
the
I mean,
documentary on that movie
yeah,
is wild.
Yeah, it is wild.
it is
Like,
wild.
they had fun making that movie.
They did
They
not
did.
have HR back then.
No,
they did not.
Yeah. I mean,
No,
talk about a
they
wild
did
set.
not.
Yeah. And I got to throw this one in because I always recite the Spinal Tap.
Oh my gosh. Did you see? Now look, I'm reserved, but like it's on. Like it's on. They are filming Spinal Tap too.
Yeah, they've been talking about that for years.
Yeah, but Rob Reiner did it.
Still doing it.
They have clips out, and it looks exquisite.
Yeah. It should be. Those guys are funny. Those guys make
great
Christopher
writers.
Guest is amazing. They make good stuff.
Michael McKean,
Harry Shearer.
Yep. And Reiner, I think,
they're all
is
around.
directing.
They're all alive.
So. Yeah. And the DVD that came out like 10, 15 years ago, it's got almost 2 hours worth of unreleased material.
Right, the commentary.
It's hysterical.
It is.
It's the whole thing where they actually get somebody to fill in for Nigel when he quits. The
Right.
kid
You're talking
with
about the deleted scenes and stuff like that. Yeah. Dude,
that's some great stuff.
It is that was ahead of its time.
It was.
Yeah.
I remember on the DVD, the guy saying how the cinematographer was the same guy that did Led Zeppelin's Song Remains the Same. Right. And they're filming this whole thing and they're doing all these jokes and the cinematographer's like, I don't get it. This is what always happens.
Right. He couldn't conceptualize satire.
Right.
You know, he's like, this isn't funny. I mean, this is
what happens.
Right.
That's awesome.
That's awesome, dude. Well, they're good picks.
That's 3 good picks.
Yeah, definitely, man. Yeah. All right. Well, look, Mitch, I appreciate you. Whoa, Davis, do you have any other questions?
There was something. This is kind of a question for both of you because I was listening to it on the way here. It's a choose one scenario. Moby Dick or Bonzo's Montreux.
Oh. I knew you were going to say that.
That's my pick, Chris.
I knew you were going to
100%. I think it just slams harder.
I think it does, but I don't know. I just feel like it might slam harder, but does it? Like live, like on the album cuts.
That's really only that. There's not many versions of that other than other than Coda.
Right, because that's the last thing.
Yeah.
Right, and so I just don't know if I can. It's like it's great, but it's kind of not like I don't know if it can be greater
So
than
you
Moby
say
Dick.
Moby Dick.
I'm saying Moby Dick was done live.
Yeah.
For a while, and he did great things with it. Real quick, I do want to say, going back, I don't know why this just popped. I'll tell you why, because we're talking about Bonham. So you said that your first teacher was like, Peter, Chris, let me show you a drummer. I have the exact same thing. Not me, but Marshall White. Remember how Marshall used to drum? So I drummed. And then Marshall started drumming.
Right.
He came to it at a different perspective. Just all of a sudden, Marshall was drumming as well. And one day we went to Marshall's trailer.
Right. Yeah.
Wherever the hell. It was in the middle of nowhere.
That was
it was like
way
a
out
farm.
past New Windsor. Yeah.
Yeah, it was
we had
at
good
a
times
farm.
out there. Oh,
and
shout out Marshall's trailer.
But Marshall was like, dude, my drum instructor told me John Bonham sucks. and I was like, holy shit. And he's like, yeah, man. He's like, but look, it's kind of weird because there's a lot of different kinds of drummings. And, but Marshall was the first one that kind of made me be like, because you know how I am about Bonham.
Yep. I mean, that guy, that instructor is a fucking piece of shit.
Listen, there is something to this.
I don't know
though.
who this man is.
You have to understand. Bonzo is a great accessible drummer to make the masses interested in drums. But Bonzo would tell you that he is nothing compared to Louis Bellson or Buddy Rich
or even Carmine Appice
or Neil Peart.
Because I was reading Carmine's book and it was Carmine that Bonzo used to say Carmine. He thought Carmine was God
because of Fudge, Vanilla Fudge.
Yeah, Vanilla Fudge was Led Zeppelin was opening up for Fudge,
right?
And Carmine got Bonzo his endorsements with Peisty and Ludwig, and you got to read this book because there's some really cool shit in there. The thing that really blew me away was Carmine, was with Rod Stewart, and he co-wrote "Do You Think I'm Sexy?"
Wow.
Yeah. So he's getting, he's to this day he's
Rod
making all
Stewart royalties.
Right. He's getting that money. And when that song came out, around the time Bonham died. Zeppelin asked Carmine to take his place.
Wow.
And Carmine's like, well, I'm flying high on this, this
Right.
number one hit that's all over the world, or play with Led Zeppelin.
Right.
And he couldn't, he took playing with Rod Stewart.
Right,
I mean,
right.
but he was asked to be the
That's
drummer.
wild. That's
And he
crazy.
would have been absolutely perfect.
He would have been
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah.
They,
I mean, imagine-
they're underrated drum. Vinny and Carmine
Oh,
Appice
Carmine's awesome.
are
Yeah.
underrated.
Another
drum-
one.
Imagine
yeah.
where Bonham would be today
Oh.
with technology if he was still around.
He probably wouldn't. He'd be playing the same.
Yeah, I feel
style.
like
You
he'd
think?
be.
He wouldn't-
wouldn't
He'd
evolve?
be a wild man. Well, I think
Well,
he
he'd be a
would
wild
evolve.
man, yeah.
Actually, I do think he would evolve because Chad Smith is a great player, and Chad Smith was originally a huge Bonham guy. And I mean, talk about a journeyman drummer. Like
Right.
he's a lifer. He seeks out different styles, tries to play them. Not that the Chili Peppers do that, but
Sure.
Chad Smith in the drumming world has done a lot of different kinds of seeking, and and so I do think Bonzo probably would have evolved. I mean, his son.
They could probably we could probably find out if they could do AI. They could just make
Yeah,
Bonham.
well, we'll ask him next week
Yeah,
or
just-
something like that.
So you didn't answer Bonzo's or Moby.
He said, "I almost
I'm not.
got
I'm
out
not
of it."
letting y'all
Tough
talk.
one. That's a tough one. I'll have to go with Moby.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's just more examples of it. I don't know. I just feel like it's
I
got.
don't need
It
the
has the
example, though,
legacy.
yeah. No, it
you
does,
know?
and but it's. I mean, as different as it is, it's always generally still the same. Like it's the same.
Yeah,
thing.
yeah, it does have the same kind of structure.
I've just always been the Bonzo. It's always been my favorite.
Speaking of a PC, one last thing. Luke Zeitler, he is friends, or is one of them dead?
Who?
Or are they both alive? The Appices.
They're both alive.
They're both alive.
They're
okay.
both alive.
But that's who one of the people, like Luke went out to the Rock and Roll
Yep.
Fantasy Camp and hung out with Carmine Appice.
Well, we'll have
for
him
like
coming
2
in.
days.
He's
Yeah,
going to
like-
be up in next three episodes, something
Yeah,
like that.
and was it? Yeah, it was Cactus. It just a few years ago played at
Cactus, right?
They played at what's that place in Edgewood? The Garage. I can't remember the
In
venue.
Edgewood. I don't know.
Anyway, but they played there.
Wow.
And then I met Carmine and took a picture with him, signed my
Damn.
book. I bought the book, he signed it and everything. We started talking.
That's
about it.
awesome.
Because he's as a drummer, he's actually got some really good some published material on playing drums.
Right,
And it's a
right.
great, like that Realistic Rock book is one of my favorites.
Right. He's
So-
got good.
Yeah, like good
Academic
teachings.
books
Yeah,
or-
great books.
Right.
And I told him, I was like, that was the book that really got me into rock and roll after my teacher finally let me stop playing jazz and play rock
Right.
and roll.
But that does help, man. Like I said, when you said that your first teacher was like, "Here's a book and a snare drum," that is the best medicine. Even though
Absolutely.
you want to go, the young cub wants the drum set,
Sure.
but you have to learn, the art
Right,
before you
right.
can actually
Lincoln's
ride.
been there. He's doing the snare. He's been doing it a couple
I'm
of years
so
now.
excited.
He almost wanted to stop, and he stuck with it, and now he likes it. Now he's back on. He's all in now.
That's perfect, man.
Yeah.
It'll be so great.
I mean, looking back, I'm kind of glad he did it. I'm kind of glad he goes, you got to listen to it. Louis Bellson, Buddy Rich. Those
Right.
are the real musicians. And luckily I saw Buddy Rich before he passed away.
Holy shit! How was that?
It was like a religious experience.
I'm sure,
I'm
man.
just sitting there going, yeah, maybe I'll just quit now.
Right.
And
Right.
he had his typical Buddy Rich attitude when he was playing.
Yeah.
They had a spotlight on him. It was the Meyerhoff. They had a spotlight on him, and he started, turn that crap off.
That's funny. It's too hot in here.
Yeah.
He's probably smoking.
That's
a cigarette.
awesome.
Well,
Yeah.
Well, wait. There was one more thing here. The Buddy Rich. Oh, there's a guy named John Crocken. Okay, and he lives across the bridge in Essex, and he makes drumsticks. And I went down and interviewed this guy. This is before we do the show. Before I knew we were going to do a show. The concept that originally was a book. I don't know. But I was seeking out some hardcore drum history, and I find this cat John Crocken, and he makes incredible drumsticks it's serious drumsticks for serious drummers. And he's an older man, and he was Chuck Stoitsman's protege. And Stoitsman drums and Stoitsman like educational materials and all this stuff. And like he knew Albert Mohler, like he learned the Muller technique from, and like he's got these great stories, man, about like,
I don't know
Buddy
who
Rich
those guys
and
are.
Elvin
Buddy
Jones.
Rich, yes.
But like all these incredible old school stories. But I just wanted to mention because, if you haven't heard of him, look him up on Facebook. And he's a really interesting guy, dude.
Nice.
I just felt like, because you made me think of him, and I just wanted to give him a mention. He's a good man. He's getting older. Nice guy.
Did you take notes during that interview?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, this
Oh,
right
nice.
here. Yeah, I'm not sure if you guys could see that.
Nice job.
That's Chuck Stoisman, right?
That's awesome.
And John Crocken drumsticks. And John has serious history. Like he was. This is a Baltimore Sun article, and he was like featured in it as a young man,
Nice.
like with Stoisman and stuff. But he's a good man.
I
But
didn't
you're
know
a
you-
drummer.
I'd be afraid to break them.
Well, you're
I
a
didn't know
lifer.
you were out doing field work before.
I
before
was.
we came
Listen,
in.
I was seeking, baby. This is like 2 years ago. I went to
That's
a
awesome.
diner in Essex and met this 77-year-old guy.
Damn.
I messaged him and I said, and literally, I had this guy.
Did you take a tape recorder?
No, you know me. I think of everything. I get there. I have a
He
pen.
just went and interviewed somebody and just.
I had a pen.
notes,
I mean,
nothing.
I did. I wrote. Look, I have. But you should have seen this guy. Yeah, it was
That's
a great
awesome.
interview.
That's a great-
yeah, it was
that's-
good
that's a
stuff.
good
But I
story.
just
That's
thought
cool.
because you have such drum history in the area and stuff, you should know that there is a piece of drum history.
It's
right
amazing,
across
like
the
how much
bridge.
stuff is around here that we really don't know of.
Yeah,
like
it's crazy.
Another good thing is like a good example is you'd be surprised, but there's actually a production company in this area that does Geico commercials,
Wow.
and it's somebody I've met a long time ago when I was working at Guitar Center and helped him build his studio. It's a private studio, beautiful studio. And every once in a while, he would, depending on the budget, would call me up to play on a Geico commercial.
That's so fun.
Right.
Oh my God.
It's great. It's so much fun.
Yeah, that's
you have to
awesome.
fill out the contract, and you get paid pretty well for it
Yeah,
because they
right.
have these budgets. And I go to his studio and I just show up with a pair of sticks. He's got a kit there. He's got a beautiful Cabarati snare kit.
Wow.
Is
mean,
it all already written stuff, or have you come up with your
No,
own
well,
role for a Geico commercial?
No, he just goes, here's the song, here's the idea I want, and then just come in and
Figure
play.
something
Figure
out,
something out.
right.
And he'll spend like an hour just getting the sounds that he wants. And then 2 takes later, I'm done.
That's awesome.
That's cool.
Man. Yeah, well, that's
It's
good.
cool. I mean, I've done some other commercials for him, but it's one of those, like, you watch TV and you're like, holy crap, that's me playing drums. That's the guy's
awesome.
riding his motorcycle. So
That's
like he
cool.
does. It's really cool because I've done some other things for Geico they've had some corporate things, and I've done sound for this and that and the other. But it's like kind of cool because they have 3 different people they use across the country. And if you notice, like, why is there a caveman, a Geico, and that money? It's 3 different groups that come up with these concepts.
Well,
That's so
yeah,
funny.
the caveman group. I've discovered music listening to Geico commercials. Like the Reichsop, the Remind Me song that I play on that little reel I made of.
Right.
There's a reason I bought that caveman art. There's lots of reasons, but that song I discovered on the Geico commercial when the caveman's on the airport escalator.
That's so
and
funny,
he's just
right?
walking, and that's the song. Reichsop's playing in the background, and me and Amanda love that fucking
That's
song.
so funny. I
mean,
love that commercial.
it's cool. He's got some
Yeah.
great stories of. Sometimes depending on the budget, he could buy at least license a song. But he's a guitar player, and they also have a guy in the studio that also plays keys. So they'll come up with concepts,
That's
and then
awesome,
they'll go, "I'll have a drummer," and then
Yeah, that's cool.
I just show up and play.
That's
this.
awesome, dude.
Yeah.
Good for you, man.
yeah.
Well, Mitch, is there anything else you want to plug or anything? I mean, you got.
I'm busy as heck. It's just,
That's awesome. You
Well, that's
sound
good
busy.
stuff. Yeah, I mean, you're like I said, you're a lifer, and appreciate you. And maybe Steven will. He will, because I know him. He's an idea man. So we'll definitely do a percussion Mitch sit-in run at some
Definitely.
point.
Oh man,
Yeah.
that'll be cool.
Yeah, it'll be awesome, dude.
I'm in.
Yeah.
It was so much fun.
Now we do have the drum set in the other room. We asked
And
the drummers.
I request that you play it.
Yeah, we asked the drummers again. Just groove, baby, or do whatever you feel
Do whatever
comfortable
you
with.
want.
Just a
it's
couple
to
minutes.
showcase you though. So,
Yeah, it's just for a couple minutes, and
like I'll cut out all your
Yeah, the in-betweens. It's
Oh,
just
you're fucking around.
It's just
only
place.
That's what I want to hear.
Yeah, right. We're not going to make you look like an asshole.
No, I mix it all together. I make it look cool.
All right, buddy. Well, I
It was good
appreciate
meeting
it.
appreciate you.
man.
Thank you
All
so
right,
much.
man.
Oh.
Stay sane, Baltimore.
Yep.
Awesome.
Thanks for listening, Baltimore. You can find us at www.sanitylounge.com or on Instagram at sanity.lounge.
Keep listening and subscribe.
Stay sane, Baltimore.